Very beautiful. Wonderful. Well, as predicted, it was fantastic. Fantastic, absolutely beautiful. All of you play wonderfully. Wonderful sound. You make a light sound for Haydn. You don't confuse it with Bartók. And that's great. It's very, very beautiful. So I have a question, which is, you play it, you phrase it, but you don't take time in order to make the phrases clear. So, and that's a question. Do we think that Haydn played it metronomically, or do we think part of his language is the surprises? And therefore, I would ask you to think about whether we could take more time in order to make the gestures clear. So do the first gesture and stopping at the end of the forte. Okay, now for starters, is there any shape in that? Is he da dum bum ba or pum pa yum bum ba? Which do you want to do? Because you're doing dum ba dum bum ba, as if the first beat and the third beat of the bar were the same. Whereas we know in the classical style the third beat is lighter than the first bar. So I would say bum ba is the first gesture, and then it comes away. Not a diminuendo, but light, heavy light. Pum pi dum bum ba. Just do that. Bim pi dum bum ba. Good. All right, now you can keep it forte. It's just the question is, where is the impulse? Pum pi dum bum ba. Do one, do one. Jim pi jim pi. Right, so that's a shock, that's a surprise. We got loud and then soft and a completely different gesture. It's like two people speaking. I want to live here. No, I'm afraid you can't. All right, so do that. 1, 2, bim, 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 bim. Now that is also one that is a surprise, because it sounds as a dum bum bum bim bum ba, but actually it's dum bum bum bim bum ba. Right, because in the classical style, the heavy bar is always the beginning of the bar, and the third beat is the light one. And Haydn knew that, all right? He more or less invented it. So let's try again. 1, 2, and I would take a tiny bit more time before the piano. 1, 2, 1. Bim, 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 bim. Bum, bum, bim, bum. Now, this ought to be loud. Right? We're expecting it to be loud. That's the way it always is. Heavy, loud, soft, loud, soft. Instead, it's loud, soft, loud! Very funny. 1, 2, 1. Can I also suggest, instead of da dum bum ba, which is what you're doing, dum pa yum, because the second note is light, da ya dum bum ba, da ta yum bum ba. 1, 2, tim tim dum dum, and the beat goes to do. And then no, right? You will not have this place. It belongs to me, right? It's a stupid example, but there's always something is being said. Should we try once again? And just exaggerate so that everybody gets the humor, because it's very funny. 1, 2, 1. Dim, 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 dim. Now we got something. Now that's a conversation. There you go. No quartet has ever got applause after one phrase of the quartet. But why they're applauding is because they understand what you're saying. Otherwise, it's like wallpaper, which is beautiful and comfortable and nice, but it doesn't say anything. And the trouble with the performance that you gave, it was beautiful, but it didn't say much. And so if it doesn't say something, It ain't right. Okay. So, and for that you have to agree about, of course, what is being said, and you can fight about it. You know, there's a wonderful example of the Juilliard Quartet. They had, well, how was that phrase? Also Haydn Quartet, dum ba dum bum bum ba, was a phrase, and it was an argument. Was it bum ba dum bum or bum ba dum bum bum ba? And two of them said one thing, and one of them said the other. But the one was the cellist, and he was the one who played it. So although they'd agreed, he did it his way. And it threw everything into disarray. When they came off stage, they went, "Why did you do that?" So those are the fun arguments. But in general, the heavy bar, the first bar is heavy, the second bar is light, the third bar is heavy, and the fourth bar is light, just like in the 4-beat bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's bars, if you have Freude, schöne Götterfunken, Tochter. Now, if you speed it up, Freude, schöne Götterfunken. If you speed it up, Freude, schöne Götterfunken, Tochter aus Elysium. It's always the same shape, and it's the same left, right, left, right, left. Always one is heavy. So if you have a discussion, argument, remember that. Remember that it's, and what the composers love to do is they love to play with that because they know that heavy bar is light, which is why they accent. And of course, Beethoven made a whole style out of that by kicking you in the pants on the second beat of the bar. And you know, when the French Revolution began, actually, it was caused by this. Well, it was Figaro, because the servant Figaro discovered that his boss, the count, had put him in a room, a beautiful room, and he was excited about the room because it was so large. And he was measuring this incredible room. But his very clever, far superior wife-to-be, Susanna, said, "You idiot, the reason he's put us in this room is because it's next to his bedroom, and he can get to me while you're while you're working." And so he suddenly realizes, oh my God. So he says, "Se vol ballare, signor Conte." He does a menuette, which is an aristocratic dance, right? He's going to make fun of this count. And remember, this is the French Revolution in action. Se vol ballare, signor. If you want to dance, Mr. Count, se vol ballare, signor Contino, il chitarrino, io suonerò. I'm going to play the guitar, my friend. Il chitarrino, io suonerò. Si! Io suonerò, si! And he puts a kick in the pants on the second beat of the bar in a minuet. Unheard of. And that caused the French Revolution. Well, more or less. Anyway, that surprise depends on the expectation that the first beat is heavy. Because if that's not expected, you can't play with it. And the composers love that. So I would suggest you do more thinking about what are the heavy bars and what are the light bars. And don't do dum bum ba, because then immediately you're in 2 instead of in 4, which is what he wrote. Right? Great. So do it again. We're not tired yet. Yeah, I would make it more peremptory. Bum ba dum bum ba. Bum ba dum bum ba. Not bum ba dum bum ba, but bum ba dum bum ba, and then bum 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 b. Right. You see, these upbeats are fantastic. Dum bum 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 bee, and then it goes to there. Right. Always say, where is it going? Every note in music goes somewhere or comes from somewhere. Right. We know that. So you tell the audience where it's going. That was great. That was much better. And it's more interesting. Right. Great. Terrific. And dum ba dim bum ba dum ba dim and always direction. Should we try from the second phrase? What do you think the dynamic is there? What? It's forte, actually. You play piano. Everybody plays the piano because they. No, it's not piano. You got it piano? No. It's forte. Yes. Right. So play forte. 1, 2, 3. Now, now there, it's a very interesting choice, which is not right or wrong. Question is, you yum-pa-dum-pa-dum-pa-dum-pa-da or yum-pa-dum-pa-dum-pa-dum-pa-da. And I think in the classical style, not Beethoven, but in the classical style, it would be more natural. Come away a little bit. Yum-pa-dum-pa-dum-pa-dum-pa-da. Finish. Rather than in Beethoven, if he doesn't make it, you would push through. But it makes too much of this. It's just a chord. It's just an arrival. But that was great. More vitality. Haydn was about the happiest composer who ever lived. I don't think he ever had a bad mood. He probably didn't have a bad day, And so if you can convey that happiness in your body language, in your playing, in everything about it, there's just sheer joy. And the string quartet is the highest form of life that has ever been devised. Right, the string quartet, and that orchestra is quite different. They did a study of job satisfaction in orchestra players, and 28 different professions. They discovered orchestra players came just below prison guards. Right. String quartet players, on the other hand, came out number one of all the professions. Right? Well, how could it be any other way? Right? It's a perfect unit, and just the sheer joy of this music. And I don't think you should resist just expressing that joy, even in your faces and bodies. You're so lucky to be playing in a string quartet, and so lucky to be playing Haydn and this piece. So if you could convey, because they don't have many places to go for happiness these days. He flew from Kentucky just to make sure he would get, he lives in Kentucky, but you remember him, right? He came again, more happiness, please. Wherever they come from. I mean, people need this so badly, really, maybe more than ever in this country now. All right, so can you just convey? Do once again from the beginning, because it's so exciting. And think of it in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. The bum ba dum bumpy. Bumpy bum ba. Try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and dim bim. That could be another one. Rather than that's Beethoven. He was angry. Haydn was happy. I wonder what comes next. But that was great. and your bodies were showing us how much you love this music. Should we just try that? I don't think we need to do more. Should we do second movement? Second movement. And now you've got to go through and decide on every bar, where the heavy bars, where the light bars, where you take time, where it's a surprise. Find the humor in the music. Okay. No, I spent a little time this morning listening to some quartets, and I didn't hear one that was more beautiful than that, really, from some of the really great string quartets. So congratulations. And it's partly the level of thinking and teaching and responsibility that exists in America in the music schools now that has never been true before, because this is just exactly what one hopes for. Right, so beautiful. So I have a couple of questions about the phrasing. You know, this is a very interesting question, because you know what happened. Haydn was in London and he heard the God Save the Queen, and he was very moved by it, and he thought Austria should have a national anthem like God Save the Queen, and so he wrote one. And for about 100 years this was the national anthem of Austria, and also for a while of Germany too, with different words. And it was in honor of Franz Joseph. So, Gott erhalte Franz den Kaiser. God save Franz the Kaiser. All right. And what he was impressed by was the stateliness of well, of course, when you hear God Save the Queen or God Save the King now, it often sounds like a dirge. God save our gracious Queen. But it was actually a piece by John Blow, who was a composer at the same time as Haydn, and it was rather fast. Dum, bum, bim, ba, da, dum, bim, bum. But it's become completely transformed, and now with the big drum roll, and you know, it becomes so. When something gets changed, the question is like the Shostakovich, the question is, do we go back to the original, or do we take over what it has become? For instance, "Oh Come All Ye Faithful," you know, we sing, "Oh Come All Ye Faithful," joy, and the heads go up and down, joyful and triumphant. But if you think what that means, "Oh come," it says, "Oh come. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Come ye to Bethlehem." I mean, that's what it's about. So maybe we could, next Christmas, you could practice from now until then. "Oh, come ye, oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh come ye to Bethlehem." Right? So now, if we approach this a tiny bit more freely, the first opening is, he could have put the bar line here, and he put the bar line here. So this is actually an upbow, an upbeat. And that's the weak bar. And most people play da da dum. So And it should be on one bow. And then, should we try that? I loved your tempo, it was very beautiful. 1, 2. It's a little freer, isn't it? And it's lovely. And the bar lines, where he put the bar lines, will tell you how to play it, where the upbeats are and where the downbeats are. And that was beautiful. And we musicians all feel music the same way. We all respond to the harmonies exactly the same way. You don't need to argue about it or study. You just play. Once you understand, once you establish the tempo and you know where the heavy bars and where the light bars are, it plays itself, just as though it did then. And you have to lead, but you've got 3 fantastic companions, and you don't have to teach them, you just play, and that was very beautiful. Now, it brings up a very interesting question, because if that's the way you want to play the theme, what happens now? Because what he did was a set of variations decorating that theme. And if they're going to play it that freely, what happens to his 16th notes? Let's find out. Okay. Okay. Now comes the second violins. A little applause. Now, wonderful. Here's a question. You choose to play it off the string mostly, and it may be absolutely right. In those days, they didn't play much off the string. They did most of the staccato playing. I remember Rudolf Kolisch, who was a great coach in the Conservatory years ago, he used to tell us, they never play off the string. I don't agree. I think sometimes they do. But it might be interesting to see if you played it more on the string, because at the right, exactly. Bravo, bravo. Because at the moment you're dominating, actually the audience wasn't listening to the tune at all. They were listening to you, right? And that you don't want that. You want everybody in the audience to be listening, particularly since the second violin. You remember I told this story of, I was in Spain and I saw this sign outside a shoe shop. It said, Alvarez shoemaker, and then underneath it said, and lessons in second violin. So we want the second violin to be prominent, and you just commenting elegantly and delicately and taking entire account of what he does, not the other way around. Should we try that? Beautiful, beautiful. Right. Now, you know, what they're clapping, not only as you're playing, is they're so fascinated by the fact that two such interpretations could exist side by side and be so beautiful. And isn't that a wonderful discovery? I mean, it just makes life so interesting because there's not an argument. So now, you can choose which one. There's no doubt in my mind that Aram became more important when you played at the point on the string. And it all became about him and you, like Irish lace, you know, filigree around him. But the other way is also beautiful. And in the end, there's no right or wrong. You just try different ways. And I notice you went back to more staccato later on, which is great. So that's that, beautiful. The main thing is to always know which role you're playing. Are you the leader or are you the secondary voice? Are you encouraging somebody else to come forward or are you giving the authority yourself? And this, I think, is a perfect example where, since it's the first variation, many people may not have realized that the melody is gone. So that's, now let's see what happens next. Can I make sure that the cello and viola are equal? So viola a little bit more, cello a little bit less. Cello always sounds louder on the A string, and so you have to come out a little bit more. The other thing you're doing, you're accenting the third beat instead of the next bar. So that's an end. And that'll take you through the rest of the phrase. It's always an upbeat. It's so interesting, you know. This one is so fascinating. The second violin and the viola, the second violin and the cello doing the melody, and you're barely audible. I think you're barely audible because it's so tempting for the ear to go to the first violin. Like I said to Peter at the beginning, sometimes you have to play so soft to make sure that the voice goes there. But that's beautiful. It's really lovely now. Should we try that one more time with you softer? And because you're moving more with the syncopations, you'll be heard anyway. This is a perfect example of beautiful playing, the perfect example of things built in threes. First, second one, and when the third comes, it's like an opening of the arms or the flower so that it just expands almost more than you can believe. And but that was gorgeous. I mean, this is the right balance now, because I'm sure everybody can hear it, but the ears are taking in everything. Do once again from somewhere there. I want to hear that first time, second time, the third time. And if you could physically say, as a conductor, I'm doing that all the time. I'm saying this is the first time, and now this is the second time, and now everybody, are you ready? This is the third time. So you don't have a conductor, thank goodness, right? So you don't need one, but then you have to be the conductors yourselves. That's the secret. Why the string quartet is such a perfect form is because it has all the voices that are needed and no conductor. So it's perfect. It's perfect. So do that again, and I want to hear all of you say to the audience with your bodies and your faces. Don't apologize that you do have a face. and so let's hear that 1, 2, 3. Where should we do it again? Nobody ever gets tired of this music ever. I don't want to leave this because it's so beautiful. But should we just look at the third movement and just quickly so that we get a feel for the whole thing? Lovely, bravo! You're great, Clayton. You're just absolutely great. Clayton led the second violins in the Boston Philharmonic last year, and I've never had a second violin leader like that. It was just, we miss you tremendously. Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, such intelligence and such warmth of giving. It's just, the whole quartet is just extraordinary. So let's do the menuette. Pointed at Peter, this is the minuet that Shostakovich was imitating in the sonata. Dum ba dum bum bum bim, about 138. Right? Isn't that interesting? I mean, he called it my little minuet. You remember when he was talking to Benjamin Britten? At least that's what Elizabeth Wilson reported. Isn't that fun? I heard that from a friend in England. He told me that. It was a radio broadcast, and he referred to his sonata, this cello sonata, as my little minuet. That's what this is. So here there's a lot of playfulness with, instead of dum ba dum bum ba, which is what everybody expects, because musicians always lead to the long note. But it's dum ba dum bum ba. And so it's the opposite. He's playing with the bar structure. So would you reverse that? Don't go to the long note, go to the first note. remember this. In classical music, the 7th bar is heavy, the 8th is light. The 7th bar is heavy, the 8th is light. So often you hear dum ba da 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 dum leading to the last note. Don't ever do that, because it's always the opposite. But that's great, and it's fun, isn't it? Because you're playing against what you naturally feel, which is to go to the long note. To end, since we have a few minutes, do the rest of the slow movement, because then they'll have a great week. Won't you? I mean, how can you have a bad week when Haydn? So do from the third variation of the Haydn, of the slow movement. Thank you. Look, you guys, I want you to look at these faces. Look at those faces, and just get. Yeah. I want you to get what power you have as musicians, because you turn a group of 100 people and change their mood and change their feeling, and every single one of you see it, because we human beings have a miraculous way of telling the world that they're happy, which is that their eyes are shining. Because you can't lie with your eyes, you understand? The eyes tell the truth. And everywhere you look, the eyes are shining. And you did that. Isn't that beautiful? Well, you had a little help from Haydn. But that's what Haydn's life was about, making people happy. And everybody's feeling happy. They may have problems, but for the moment that you're playing, they shelve those problems, put them to the side and say, they're not really that bad, I can deal with it. And that G major chord, I don't know of any chord that's more beautiful or more moving than that final G major chord. The simplicity of it, the beauty of it, and the absolute certainty of it. that human beings are designed to be happy. That's a great message. And I really want to thank you for, because you brought something to this class we've never had before, reminded me that we should do more. And whenever we see musicians, young or old, but particularly young, who are that dedicated to beauty and to making it really right, it's very moving, very touching, and there isn't anything better. You know, watching a good football team win a game is kind of exciting, but unfortunately the other guys have lost, and they're miserable, you know, and nobody loses here. Nobody loses. Everybody wins, and everybody's spirits are raised and lifted, and what seemed hopeless seems possible, and it's worth the fight. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, beautiful. Love you. Beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful. See you in an hour.